Hello and welcome. Today is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. Thank you for being here. Now, the Massachusetts area, the New England area, is experiencing heavy rains. They're calling it the spring nor'easter. So I may or may not lose connection. I may have terrible audio or video at certain points of this recording. So I apologize ahead of time. I was listening to this video this morning and I was like, I got to do a commentary on this because it's perfect. It's Ian Runkle and Mark Betterow. And if you don't want to listen to my commentary, the description will have the link to the original video below. So you can bypass my commentary altogether. Again, thank you for being here, guys, and prepare to be enlightened.
We are in the second round of one of the craziest trials that I've ever seen, like literally ever. Is this something you've ever seen? Like, is this, I'm coming at this from a Canadian perspective. So I look at this and I just go, this is unreal.
No, this is not normal American justice for those of our friends north of the border. This is not normal. This is kind of one of one. We've all seen interesting, fascinating, messy cases, weird cases, crazy things, but I've never seen a conglomeration of crazy on top of crazy on top of crazy. I've never seen that before. And it just happens on a daily basis with this case. So no, I've never in 26 plus years seen anything like this. And it continues to get, as I said, crazier by the day. And, just for good measure, it's essentially the trial of the decade, if you will. Everybody watches it. Everybody talks about it. So the good news is that, the Massachusetts justice system can embarrass itself on a national and international level on a daily basis for all kinds of people who want to see how trial practice actually doesn't work, because this is not normally how it works. But here
Absolutely. And guys, proving Mark Betterow correct is Ian Runkle, right? He's in a live stream with Ian Runkle. Ian Runkle is an attorney in Canada. It's absolutely an internationally acknowledged situation here happening in Massachusetts, where I live, unfortunately. And fortunately, because I'm able to go to the standouts, I'm able to support the supporters and Karen Reed when I can. But it is unfortunate that it is happening here and the world is watching. And guys, just like Mark Betterow was saying, it's something he's never seen before, right? And Alan Jackson, who is an attorney working in California, he has said the same thing. And David Yannetti, remember during the first trial, David Yannetti said he had never seen a jury verdict slip like that before. Like, this is a new situation for a lot of attorneys observing this case. And it's a new situation for the attorneys directly involved in this case with Karen Reed and defending her. It is so bizarre how the prosecution thinks it is fooling anyone when you've got attorneys from all around the world commenting on this case, and they are all pretty much saying the same thing. It is not normal.
Here it is.
A couple of years ago, I remember I was talking to a young lawyer and I was giving them sort of some words of advice, and one of them was not to chase like Matlock moments, like the big moment where you've got a witness and the witness never admits to the horrible thing, and you never really like land the sort of the huge punches kind of thing. It's a lot of sort of undermining and whatever else. And then we've got this trial, and I think I saw 3 in one day, and a couple days ago with Alessi's cross of Burgess.
Ugh.
It's so bizarre.
I just love Mark Bettero's reaction. Like, who can't relate to that?
I mean, I don't think anyone has ever seen an expert literally lie about their academic credentials, but do it in such a profoundly stupid and obvious way that all it takes is somebody to do a Google search and you could see it. And then when they lie about or mislead whoever's responsible for it about their academic credentials, and there's about 4 or 5 different examples of it, but the inconsistency is inconsistent with the other inconsistencies. It's not even it's not even a nice clean way of lying. It's one day it's this, one day it's that. I graduated, I didn't graduated, there's a degree in this, there's a degree in that, this degree doesn't really exist. Oh, by the way,
I just love the way Mark Bettero said that. The inconsistencies are consistent with the other inconsistencies. It's like that phrase, the only constant is change. Change is the only constant. In the Karen Reed case, when it comes to the prosecution, the only constant is inconsistencies. The only consistency is inconsistencies.
way I didn't graduate and I'm pursuing a degree for 17 years, which is that just
There's a certain
true.
point.
I
There's a
mean,
certain point where you have to just admit that the degree got away from you. You're not
Yeah.
pursuing it anymore. It's escaped.
somebody noted today online that if somebody started life at the same time this guy started pursuing a degree, the now 17-year-old would be a high school graduate, and almost on a par with this guy already, and would be likely to graduate college before him, which of course, a lot of people don't go to college and don't finish it. But, most of those people don't purport to be technical experts and lie about it. I mean, it's kind of
Precisely. I've seen people commenting about this case and saying, "Why are you being so hard on Shannon Burgess for not having a degree? Like, lots of people in the US can't afford a degree." And it's like, yeah, but a lot of those people aren't testifying as an expert witness in a high-profile case in which an innocent person is being framed, right? They chose Shannon Burgess on purpose, just like they chose Trooper Joe Paul on purpose, the lowest hanging fruit. The people who would just do it for the money, that's why they chose Shannon Burgess. And if you guys don't know the reference, Shannon Burgess had an alleged bachelor degree, and he had it on his resume, but it's like, if you read the fine print, it's like he's been pursuing it for 17 years. Again, this is in a criminal case, and this guy thinks he can just sit there with an associate's, if he has one, if he even has one, and some certificates, and say, I know enough about this high status situation, this criminal case. I can testify on the stand as an expert in this criminal case, even though I'm not that educated. Right? And remember, guys, Shannon Burgess alleged that he could do things that nobody else in the industry could do. So it's I will never give anyone shit for not having a college degree, ever, ever. I'm fully aware that the situation in this country is profit driven. The universities are profit driven. They've all been infiltrated with corporations. So, it's like middle class and up for people who want to go to college. If you're poor and trying to get to college, good luck. So I certainly absolutely would not give anyone shit in the US for not having a degree whatsoever, but I would absolutely give someone shit for not having a degree, not being experienced enough to testify in a criminal case.
distinction there.
Yeah, I saw some people in my chat previously who were saying, like, hey, don't bag on people who don't have a degree. The key thing, though, is, if you don't have a degree, maybe you're not an expert in whatever it is, although there are expert fields that maybe,
Right.
but the big thing is, don't ever, ever lie about it if you're going to be testifying in court. It's
Yeah, I mean, you don't need a college degree. I mean, look, if you're going to be Mona Lisa veto expert, sure, you know, you don't need a degree in academic studies. But if you're going to be a technical expert, it helps to, you know, tell the truth. And if you have degrees, do it. But, you know, the biggest thing that I found stunning about it all is that the prosecutor clearly knew about it and clearly and without question deliberately tried to dance around it as if what, no one was going to notice this? I mean, because he asked him all his other credentials about his certificates, his teaching, and left out the most obvious one that every single expert in the history of American and I'm assuming Canadian trials has ever done, which is, you know, lawyers ask experts about their academic credentials. And he didn't do it. You know, he gets clobbered on cross. And then what Brennan does, as he's kind of want to do, at least in my opinion, he likes to make things worse on redirect. It's kind of a fascinating talent because he's done it again and again and again. And he brought it up on redirect, which just allowed a whole another round of clubbing this guy over the head with new material about this. And all it did was establish that this guy clearly was lying and that the prosecutor was hiding it. And you walk out of there and you say, what are they doing? There's no one else in America or beyond. I mean, I you know, the cell phone guy is a Canadian expert. There's nobody else other than this guy who can tell you about the data. Pretty weird.
Yeah, I thought it was stunning because the other thing is, you know, I did it as a blind watch because I didn't plan to. I've been doing recaps, but I was it's a long weekend in Canada, so my wife and I were off in a forest, and I thought it was just going to be sort of uninteresting because experts usually are kind of boring. The best experts are the best experts can present it in an interesting way, but they're kind of boring in the sense that like there shouldn't be any stunning moments with an expert.
They should be entirely boring and very just calm, neutral, fact oriented. It is what it is, and then get the hell out of there and just do it. And instead, this guy was anything but that. I mean,
And guys, on a personal level, in my own personal experience with observing cases over the years, countless cases, that's one of the things I enjoy about cases. Again, whether it's criminal, civil, family, I enjoy listening to testimony. I enjoy listening to experts talk about facts and be very objective. Like that kind of language is therapeutic to me. Just to listen to someone who knows what they're talking about and it's very matter of fact. I find that soothing. But this case has been anything but.
You saw him shaking by the time he was on cross. You know, his face got as red as the hoodie that I'm wearing when he was getting grilled. And, you know, he became the story. I mean, he was on the front page of the Boston Herald this morning. He's getting talked about, you know, all over mainstream media reports about the case. And I mean, does anybody remember a freaking word of what he said? Or are you just thinking like academic fraud? I mean, that's all you're thinking about with this guy.
Oh, absolutely. And when you were saying Brennan made it worse on redirect, I was stunned at how badly he did because he's like, you've never presented this in a court, have you? And he goes, no, I haven't. Okay, now you've made that statement under oath.
Yeah.
And it turns out not to be true. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, wow, Brennan, you just set a perjury trap for your own witness.
You know, but it's fascinating because not a perjury trap per se, but he has made the testimony of many of his witnesses that much worse by trying to get cute or clever on redirect. He did it with Jennifer McCabe. He did it with the medical examiner, which was like, you know, suicide. I mean, as if it wasn't bad enough that she said, you know, for example, I can't tell you the manner of death, which ought to be the death knell of the case anyway, on many levels. He wanted to make sure the jury understand that not only can she not tell you the manner of death, but she knows everything that I say proves her guilt and still can't give you the manner of death. And I mean, that was just like literally running into a brick wall head first on purpose. And when he got up, said, I'm going to do it again.
And guys, if you remember my video about that testimony about Hank Brennan questioning Dr. Irini Scortibello, I said, I don't know how Hank Brennan thinks he's helping his case, asking her these questions. Like, he's only helping the defense with these questions because she's not budging. It's amazing, that guy, Hank Brennan, just he's a hot mess.
What are you doing? Why would you do that?
I've actually had some like a hard time explaining this case to lawyers here, because not a lot of lawyers in Canada are following the case. And so they're like, some of them know that I stream, and so they're like, what are you covering right now? And I tell them the Karen Read case, and well, what's that about? And I start telling them the things that are going on, and I get a look from them that is the sort of like, no, like that's not accurate. Like, you're bullshitting me about this case.
Can't make it up. I mean,
and the couple of prosecutors here that I know of, who I'm friends with, who've been following this, have just said, like, how is this case not just over? How is it that they haven't just said, Judge, we're not going, we're not going any further. This is done. Like,
Remember, guys, attorneys that were observing this case during the first trial in 2024, multiple attorneys were saying the same exact thing. Why did they bring these charges? Why did the prosecution bring this case to begin with?
Put it to bed.
It's crazy. And, no, they doubled down. I mean, they kind of got a reprieve with a mistrial on some sense. And rather than kind of reevaluate, what did they do? They just said, the hell with it. We'll spend more taxpayer money, light it on fire, and bring in somebody else and pay him $500,000, whatever it is, to make it worse. We'll hire a whole nother round of experts that we didn't use the first time, spend another probably $1 million combined for that. And we'll just cost the taxpayers more and more, embarrass ourselves more, almost certainly lose, and in the process bring a case where we can't even call the cops. I mean, what does that tell you, right? I mean, this case literally is going to involve one, what I would say, traditional police officer who actually investigated the case. All the other ones that they've called are kind of on the periphery. They're not really involved in the actual investigation per se, and they can't even call the lead investigator. And they can't call the lead investigator when he is so obviously the lead investigator, and the jury knows he's the lead investigator and was fired because he's a scumbag. But other than that,
just like, if you listen to what Mark just said, it's like Coverup 4D, 5D, like a 5-dimensional cover-up. It's a cover-up of a cover-up of a cover-up. Like, the cover-up occurred on January 29th, 2022, and then the cover-up continued through the so-called investigation, and then the prosecution of Karen Read, that involved additional covering up in the first trial, and now this retrial is additional covering up. And even before the retrial began, multiple motions hearings, multiple cover-ups occurring in those motions hearings. It's a cover-up of a cover-up of a cover-up. It's insanity, this case.
Why wouldn't you bring the case?
Well, you have Buchanan going, oh, there's no lead. We're just all like, he's just like first among equals. And then I forget which officer it was, but they had another officer.
Yeah, guys, remember that when Yuri Buchanan was testifying, and he was asked about the lead investigator, and he was like, well, there isn't really a lead investigator. Like, that was such a crock of shit. Everybody knew during the first trial who the lead investigator was, and it was Michael Proctor. But because he's fired, because he's so dishonorable, they want to pretend he never existed.
Officer, and it's like, Proctor. He's like, "Oh, you mean the lead investigator?"
Yeah, no, I mean everyone said that, and the worst part is too. I mean, if you're going to use Buchanan as kind of the guy who's going to hoist up the entire Massachusetts State Police and take care of Proctor, and he's the good cop, and he'll be impressive. I mean, wouldn't you kind of prepare him maybe before you call him, and be prepared about maybe being a little less obnoxious, a little less smug? Maybe don't hang on the railing like you did the first trial, which you did the second trial. Maybe not deliberately speak in a way where each sentence takes what feels like 3 minutes to say. Maybe just admit the obvious, not fight over every word, not, when you're presented with these obnoxious text messages that you're involved with, why not just say, you know what, that was inappropriate, I shouldn't have done that, as opposed to saying, well, that is a thumb emoji liking no nudes yet, but I didn't like it. That's just me acknowledging receipt, because that's what everybody does, to acknowledge receipt. Got it. I mean, they're just idiots.
I was sitting there going, like, just wondering, like, okay, did you acknowledge every text, like, with a thumbs up? Because if that guy responds to every text with a thumbs up, you would stop texting him real fast.
But with him too, I don't want to jump around too much, and I certainly don't want to talk too much about, the other case, but some counts were dismissed in the other case, and amongst the counts that were dismissed were alleged witness intimidation charges related to Buchanan and Michael Proctor. And as a result, of course, we've now lost the opportunity to cross-examine them about, the witness intimidation and emotional harm that they suffered, or that Buchanan suffered, because, a certain person was running around saying, "You're Proctor's bitch," which is what's on the video. But,
And if you guys don't know, he's referring to Aidan Kearney. Those charges were dropped.
Unfortunately, it's good that those charges are dismissed, but as you understand, as from a lawyer's perspective, you lose that opportunity.
Yeah, no, and I've had cases where there's like a bad police officer, and you're just craving that cross-examination where you get to actually hold them to account, and then they drop it, and you go, "Oh, I guess we never get to ask those questions."
Yeah, I mean, he was on video. He's alleging emotional harm months after this alleged incident, and he gets in his car and he's getting yelled at, and he actually rolls his window down to take it all in. I mean, this is intimidating, mind you, right? So naturally, what you would do is you would roll your window down and encourage more of this going on. It would have been very interesting to have a nice conversation and back and forth under oath about how intimidating this really was. But, it's for the better good that it gets dismissed.
I mean, I was stunned at because he just wanted to inject it just out of nowhere and then somebody confronted me in the courthouse bathroom, and I'm going, "You're a cop. You've got a badge and a gun, and you're afraid of, like, somebody said something mean to you in the bathroom, and that kept going to the courthouse again?"
I would love to take him on a nice trip through the streets of Manhattan and say, tell everyone you're a police officer, and let's see how the public discourse goes, and watch what happens and what people say every single day to NYPD guys. And what do? They do nothing. They walk away, and they don't deserve it, obviously, but people have a right to say whatever they want, and believe me, out here they share that view on a very daily basis. But I mean, if that's witness intimidation, I mean, get a grip, man.
Oh, and
they all carried on that bandwagon alongside Jennifer McCabe, the McCabes and the Alberts. Oh, the harassment, woe is me, like everyone's harassing us. For an officer to pretend like they were victimized, to pretend they were intimidated, when they are the ones that created the situation, right? And of course, there's going to be public outcry. Of course, there are going to be people coming up to them and saying, "Why did you do this to John O'Keefe? Why did you do this to Karen Reed?" So they play the victim card so that they further distance themselves from their own accountability. You see, as I keep saying, we are dealing with cowards.
Police officers have a lot of different sort of roles, and of course, testifying in court is a big one. But a huge thing is just you might get some guy who comes up and shouts abuse at you or flips you the bird or all sorts of things, and it's pretty critical to just not react or to let it go, right? That's an important part of policing.
It is possible that somebody could run up to you and express their opinion that, they think there's corruption in the case and say, we think you're Proctor's bitch. Look, would I say that? No. Would you say that? I don't think so, but I can't speak for you literally. I don't think you would, but maybe.
No,
I don't think you would. But the point is, that's not a crime. Is it, again, a lot of people wouldn't do it, but it's not a crime, and everybody should grow up and just realize that that's not what the law was designed for. And, it was being exploited, and some of the other counts are still there, but certainly the ones involving the police officers in this case were just an absolute joke.
And anytime you've got a police officer who says, I am this afraid of random stuff, I'm just going, why is this? Shouldn't this person be just getting themselves fired by doing this?
Yeah. Well, he wasn't afraid. The incident that ultimately led to the now dismissed indictment for that count occurred months before there was an indictment. There was no police report even generated to that incident until they decided to indict him. So it's as if they went back and say, you know what? Remember that time? Remember that? Let's add that. So we need you to do a report, and then we'll add that to the indictment. And that's basically what they did. It was truly pathetic, but it's gone.
It's this is such a weird. I just every time they bring on a witness, and I'm just expecting that it's going to be like completely uninteresting, and that there's not going to be anything happening with this witness. It turns out to be something odd about it, or something, I'll sort of go through recap later. I'm not sure how much time you've got, but we had the guy today who goes in and he's like, he's talking about falls and so forth. And he's like, yeah, no, this is entirely consistent with, say, a drunk falls backwards and hits their head. And this,
great answer for the DA. There you go. In other words, it could be an accident, and maybe the medical examiner can't decipher between accident and homicide, because what if it's a drunk who fell back and hit his head? Yeah, no, I thought he did no favors to the prosecution. And then, the interesting thing was he certainly had an opinion that he had to have fallen on his head, but it doesn't have to be outside on the cold ground. And then you look at the cross-examination, and before it started, you're thinking, how are they going to play with this? This probably should be short, make a few points, and be done. But I'm not sure how it's going to play out. And it turns out it's 5 minutes. And however good the prosecution feels it went, they shouldn't, because, the real thing came at the end, and it was kind of very subtle, but it won't be so subtle in summation, which is, although the doctor had, and obviously he's a real witness, unlike the guy from before. This is a real brain surgeon, obviously.
Yeah.
And was explaining that, in his opinion, if I understood it correctly, when there's an impact and the head smashes and then the brain moves up, that it can cause some of the damage in the front because it's like a chain reaction, but not the other lacerations. So he basically admitted whatever those injuries are not from the fall on the head, which of course begs the question, what else happened to this guy? It could not, there's got to be more to it.
Excuse me. Yeah. I've had online discussions with a few people about this. They were like perplexed. They were like, well, how did Dr. Isaac Wolf, the prosecution's brain surgeon, expert witness, like, how did he help the defense? Like, people are confused. And it's like, guys, it's all about creating reasonable doubt, right? That doctor, Dr. Isaac Wolf, he established that the cut above John O'Keefe's right eye was not caused by the contra coup. It was a separate event. Something else cut his eye. And then some people online were like, well, there were pieces of glass in John O'Keefe's eye. Like there were pieces of glass, and Karen Reed said that she was pulling some off of his eye. It's like the point is he had black eyes. He had injuries to his face that were separate from falling backward. That's the point. It's about giving the jury an opportunity to evaluate other possibilities. That's what you do in a real criminal case, just like Dr. Marie Russell said. You know, you got to think about what else could have caused this? What else could have possibly happened? And so prosecution witness after prosecution witness has assisted in the development of reasonable doubt, of other things occurring against the prosecution's narrative. That's the point, guys.
I mean, to me, that fit 100% right into the defense's hands. So,
I mean, when the guy started talking, I went, okay, this guy is very much, you know, this is clearly a real expert. It's not a Trooper Paul situation where they've got some guy, you know, who's an, you know, idiot wearing a fancy hat. And I was going, this guy could be really, you know, this guy's a scary witness in the sense that he's got some real like gravitas, some real credibility. And the problem for the Commonwealth is that they also found an honest witness, and he was just there, like, you know, so he was just going, oh yeah, well, no, this is, you know, this is possible with just a fall if you were drinking.
None of the witnesses that they call, you know, obviously everybody knows, they've heard us talk about this 100 times, burden of proof, and how it's such a hard thing for the prosecution. But every witness who testifies, there are holes. They're not compelling, and they need to be over the top, compelling, and carry the day. And this guy, you know, you think, okay, here's maybe the guy, he's going to do it. But again, within 5 minutes across, he's talking about injuries that have nothing to do with what I'm talking about in terms of a fall. You know, he's telling you, as you said, other things about just because there's, you know, a bang on the back of the head, and it could have been that he fell down, but it could very just as easily be some drunk guy who slips and falls, like I see in Minnesota all the time. In fact, he said the majority of my brain trauma that cases that were similar to this are drunks who fell down on the ice or the hard ground. And no disrespect to John O'Keefe, obviously, but the jury is well aware, based on the evidence in the case, that he clearly had an alcohol problem. I mean, he talked about drinking all the time. He was drinking a lot this night. He's talking about still being drunk in these text messages at like 3:00 in the afternoon the next day. I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't have to be a disrespectful way of saying it, but the bottom line is this doctor readily acknowledged that, you know, that injury could very well be a drunk guy falling. And that's, you know, just a couple of days after a medical examiner who said this guy was drunk and I can't even rule this a homicide, let alone a murder committed by your defendant. So, I mean, where the hell are they going with this?
Right. And remember Robert Alessi questioning Dr. Scortibello and talking about the stomach ulcers. And like, isn't that what someone who drinks regularly, isn't that what would happen to them? Wouldn't they have stomach ulcers? Right. And Dr. Scortibello said yes. And then Alessi was like, so he was taking Tums, right? He was taking some kind of antacid to help him with the stomach ulcers, right? And the easiest fix would have been to stop drinking, right? But just like Mark Betterow said, it's not intended to be disrespectful. It's a fact, you know, it's a matter of fact that John O'Keefe was drinking. And that in and of itself should have been part of the equation. Like, what if he fell backward somewhere else, right? What if nobody punched him and he just fell backward inside the Brian Albert's house, right? Obviously, somebody beat him up or a couple of people beat him up. But I'm just saying that's a strong possibility that he was drunk enough to fall backward, to lose control of his body. So it was an excellent argument brought up and assisted. It was an argument that was helped by the prosecution's own witnesses, 2 of them.
I don't think I've ever seen a murder case where the where the medical examiner wasn't on board.
No, you've never seen anything like that. Certainly, I would suggest, because no sane prosecutor would do that. I mean, if the medical examiner is telling you, listen to me carefully, I cannot even tell you that this person's death, the manner of death was a homicide. I certainly cannot tell you that it was a homicide caused by, a car accident, because she couldn't give him that either. She couldn't even tell you if anything really, other than he had a very serious head injury. So what sane prosecutor would do that, even after, as you know from the text messages, which I don't think are really in evidence yet, if they're going to be at all. We know the state police tried to bully the medical examiner. We know that disgraced Michael Proctor called her a whack job, just like he called Karen a whack job without the other word. We know that the medical examiner was well aware of the alleged statements that she hit him and that it was a car accident and that there were taillight pieces sprinkled all over the lawn. And despite all of that, she says, I still can't tell you it's a homicide. Their other neurologist is saying, for all I know, some drunk guy slips and falls and bangs his head. And you say, you're the party with the burden of proof. The defense hasn't even started yet. And it feels like it's already circling the drain.
Great way to end it, guys. Again, I will leave the link to this live stream in the description below for your convenience. Great point. As Mark Betterow was saying, like, the prosecution's witnesses were helping the defense team. Like, the prosecution's witnesses were helping the defense team. And the defense hasn't even started their case. The prosecution hasn't even rested their case yet. So to me, it's only like smooth sailing for the defense going forward. Like, the prosecution helped them a lot without even trying. So anyway, thank you to Ian Runkle and Mark Betterow. It's a great live stream. Thank you for watching.